Good morning. Welcome to Books at the Bottom of the Stairs. My name's Lorene. I just had my COVID shot on Sunday, and today's Tuesday, and I'm just feeling a little bit down and draggy. Not too bad, and so, I recommend getting the COVID shot. Won't go there. I'm just realized the top of my head. Okay, sit back a bit, Lorene. My mom's famous for decades of taking photographs where we all basically, somewhere between here and here, she's lopped us off. So when it's here, it's funny because we can only tell each other apart from if we remember our clothes. So, yes, I don't want to do that. I have been not reading a book. I don't know if you guys ever get this, where there's a book that you just you need to read, and it's really not singing in your heart, and it just screws everything up. That's where I've been in the last week. And so this is a book for my online book club. Yeah, I'll talk about that afterwards because as a separate event, but the book itself, and I am talking about Terry Fallis's, I'm not sure, A New Season. And I gather that this is quite a departure for him. I think he mostly does political satire or ironic commentary. And I've picked up a couple of his books. In fact, one of his books was recommended to me by the bookstore seller, and I picked it up, brought it home, 5 pages, gave it away. And then I did it again. I bought the book twice, and within 15 pages the second time, I gave it away. And so, except, what I do is I purge that kind of information. So if something's on the shelf or somebody says something, I don't have into my brain, oh, you gave up on Terry Fallis. So I had to buy it again, or not the same book, but I had to buy him again. And I regret it. I regret every cent I paid for it. This is about Jack McMaster, who seemingly has it all. His wife has died 2.5 years earlier, one of the first COVID victims in Toronto. And I'm just realizing, oh, isn't that interesting? I just got my COVID shot. Did not plan that. Okay. He goes to Paris, and okay, it doesn't even matter what the plot is. The writing is so flat. It is so generic. It is so off tune. And so I thought, okay, maybe I just don't understand irony anymore. I was instructed in the fine art of irony back in the 70s in high school, and it is a fine art. But in order to really understand irony, you have to understand context. And so if it's a political satire, you have to really understand, you really have to know the situation that's being satirized. So Jane Austen, for instance, for me often falls flat because although I know theoretically what it was like to be in the Regency era and all their rules and protocols and everything, it doesn't really hum along. It's just not part of my everyday world, so I don't get the humor as well as other people do. And I also think English as a second language, sometimes those kinds of nuances just don't hit. So I take everything at face value, and so if there's a pun, I quite often think, oh, that's possible, and then someone else will go, pun? And I'll go, oh yeah. Well, he doesn't even do puns. He doesn't even really do word tour de forces or anything. He's just... So when I really, really gave up on this book, it was when he came across, after several weeks, he's been going for coffee, and he comes across a waitress, and this is happening in Paris, and she's serving him every day his chocolat and croque au vin, and he's practicing his French, and really he's only got about 15 words that he's practicing. How hard is that? Anyways, I guess for him it was pretty hard. She comes over one day and she sits at the table and she starts to speak to him, and he comments on her perfect English. Well, she's an English woman, and the only reason I'm laughing right now is because it was just so absurd. It's because in order for them to kind of connect, like, oh, have we got a thing going on here? They compliment each other's on their vocabulary. How ridiculous. Okay, so as I tell that little piece of story, okay, that sounds a bit funny, but mostly it's just like, are you serious? Is that your turn on? Is that your pickup line? Oh, how good is your vocabulary? So I think that might have been the highlight of this book in terms of I just couldn't stand it any longer. So yeah, big thumbs down for me. And this is going to be discussed at book club in 2 nights, and he's coming to visit. Oh, what do you say? I think I may have said, like, since I'm saying that story, maybe I said it already. Tea is so intoxicating. This is written by Mary Essex, and it's part of the British Library Women's Writers Series, which is curated collection of novels by female authors who are pretty much all pre-1950. And so Mary Essex was one of several pen names for Ursula Bloom, and now she has, I just see here, she was recognized in the Guinness Book of Records as the world's most published female author. Good for Mary. Okay, so this is definitely for sure ironic, but also deeply sad. And I think that might be part of irony, is that it has to evoke some kind of emotion in you. Yeah, like either you're laughing or you're connected to the characters, and that you are feeling their pain or whatever. Yeah. Anyhow, we're moving on. A prospect of a new tea garden opening in the village causes great consternation, with rumor rife that David and Germaine are not properly married. The lady of the manor makes it her mission to shut the enterprise down. With Germaine at her wit's end, and the situation is further complicated by the arrival first of Mimi, the French cook, who specializes in cakes. She may not be French. And then her daughter, Germaine's daughter, Dux, is followed by her first husband, Digby. So Germaine's pretty funny. She's given up her marriage. She's followed this man, David. He is oblivious. He worked in the accounting office of some business that sold tea, like the tea leaves and tea byproducts and stuff that's around the country of England. And he's decided he's just the right person to open a tea shop in this little town. And he's done no research. He's never even poured a cup of tea ever for himself. And so he is just an oblivitron. And Germaine is not much better, but she's got a sense of how it's supposed to look at the end. She's never cooked a thing. She's always had people cooking for her, but she knows what a cup of tea is supposed to smell like and taste like and look like, and what a tray is supposed to look like. And anyhow, she keeps trying to help David, but David just doesn't want help. He buys a pile of umbrellas on rainy days, because they actually only have enough space for a couple tables indoors, so it's got to be a good weather tea house. And they all blow away. So it's pretty funny, except that as time goes by, Germaine is losing more and more patience, and is realizing that her first husband, Digby, wasn't really all that bad. And she and he have a daughter, Dux, who, like cantankerous, bossy, self-absorbed. I mean, she's just the evilest, best teenager you've met in a long time. And there's another couple that are friends to David and Germaine, but also were friends with Digby. And so they come into this situation sort of as this observer, and they can see where things are going agley, and they help out in a couple of different ways. And I really enjoyed this. And now I was reading it with a buddy reading it with someone, and their marriage was actually beginning to look like David and Germaine's relationship. So she didn't find it so funny. So I have to buddy read it with someone else who's not going through a spousal disappointment. I really recommend this one. So far, I think it's my favorite of the group that I have been reading. And I think I should probably do a wrap up on that, because I've read most of what I had purchased. So I think this one you would have to buy online, and I think it was through the British Library site. I guess I'll have to link that. Okay, because Terry Fallis's book was just killing me, I have had zero enthusiasm for anything else. I really want to read this one. It's Still Life with Tornado by is that right? A.S. King, yes. I've read one of their books, Dig, which I really enjoyed, which is what prompted me to go forward in this book. But Sarah she's 16 and she's having some real mental health issues. And I think it's probably very, very much what we've encountered in another young adult coming of ownership of their own life kind of book. But things have been happening in my family, and I don't want to read mental health right now of a teenager. And this book is for my next book club, the Woozles Book Club. This next book, Funerals for Dying Girls by Cherry Dilmaline. Hope I pronounced that properly. It looks like it's going to be a bit of a spooky. There's a graveyard. She lives in a graveyard because there's an apartment above the what's that called? Not appliances. Lawnmowers and all the kind of equipment for maintaining the graveyard has got an apartment above. So she lives with her father there, and mom's been gone for a long time. And so things are starting to change for her. She's had a life of very little change. It's been very much a plateau for quite a long time. And the cemetery is a setting for her. And I've just started it. I'm about 5 pages in now that, And I am enjoying it. So what I'm going to do today is just dip back and forth between Still Life with Tornado and Funeral Song for Dying Girls. I'm going to find myself a hot, what's that called, heating pad and some woolly blankets. It's cold out. It's about 4 degrees. And I have like a life update that you guys are just going to rock in your chairs over. Once a year, I go and I have a pedicure, and I get a very, very bright colored nail polish put onto my toes. And this is part of my defense mechanism against the winter blues, which I get. And so when I am in the shower, I can look down and I see these little toes peeking out, and I think, I'm still here. What are those blue things? I went for blue last year. This year I went for a slightly baby blue. Last year was more sort of a tealy blue. So, I get a color that is sort of off my normal radar. I don't wear nail polish anyways, but I didn't get a pink or something like that because that would be kind of normal. I go for something that's going to like pong. And I've had yellow and I've had green and 2 years of blue. So that's one of my recommendations for how to beat the winter blues, is to get some nail polish on. Part 2 of that, because I don't go back, is how long does it take for it to wear off? Which, I sort of have bets with myself, 3 weeks, 5 weeks, 4.5 weeks. And then, once I finally figured out the last little dribs of nail polish have disappeared, I can have a nice piece of chocolate. The things we do to stay alive. Okay, I have no idea what I'm going to do in December. I know that is a reread month for a lot of people, and I'm not going to do that. And one of the things I want to do, which I don't know if I'll somehow find a way to show you guys, but I have all these lists of recommendations that go back about 2.5 years, and I need to go through those and see what's actually in the library. Sometimes you get a book review in a magazine or a newspaper or something, and you make note of it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the library has it. So first I go through the whole list at the library site, and then I go through whatever is not at the library and check it out on Goodreads. And then I put, while this is happening, they're all going on my waiting list. And I haven't quite cleared my waiting list from last year. So I think that's going to be my December project, is trying to get through my backlist. And yeah, I don't know. And January, you know, I don't make New Year's resolutions. So there's one, I'm thinking of one. I have one on my mind that I might make that I could succeed at. So I'll tell you about that in the new year. However, I don't have any reading plans for the new year, and I think that's the first time in a long time that I've decided to go into January just see what happens. So that's it for me. I hope all your reading dreams and adventures continue to come true, and I'm surprised about how much I had to say, considering how little I had to say. Bye-bye.